The rocket in Myrtle Beach appeared when the rocket was 23.1 kilometers high. And we did the curve calculators on it, and that works out exactly as would be expected on the spherical Earth of radius 3959. Now, I was hanging out on one of the Flat Earth Discord chats the other day, and their argument was, well, have I proven that refraction bends light downwards? No, I haven't, because I don't need to. Here's the way science works, and this is something that they really don't get very well when they're dealing with the flat Earth. And that is that I don't need to go back and prove every single step of my premise or my hypothesis. I can have certain things that are given. So, for example, given the Earth being a spherical planet of radius 3959 miles, and given that refraction follows Snell's law, on the surface of the Earth, light will bend downwards, causing objects to appear higher than they actually are on my vision. Now, that radius of that curve of refraction is generally given as 7/6 times the radius of the Earth. I don't need to demonstrate what the radius of the Earth is. I can substitute 7/6 times 3959 and get the exact same curve. And that is part of my hypothesis that if the Earth is a sphere of radius 3959 and given standard refraction in the atmosphere, I will see that rocket from Myrtle Beach at 1 minute and 34 or 1 minute 36 to 1 minute 40 seconds. Now, if indeed I do see that rocket at 1 minute 36 to 40 seconds, that verifies the validity of my hypothesis. Now, if they wish to question that, they have to demonstrate under what condition light would not bend downward, but would in fact bend upward, or try and demonstrate that light won't bend at all despite the difference in the temperature of the ocean versus the temperature of the air. By the mere fact that the reality of my observations of reality followed my prediction, and my prediction had a known mechanism that has been validated many times, standard refraction, I don't need to demonstrate conclusively that the light didn't bend upward. They have to demonstrate that the light did not bend downward as would be predicted by standard science. So that argument is simply being ignored by me. I'm not going to sit down and reprove refraction for them. If they want to learn about refraction, they can learn elsewhere. The bottom line is, by putting standard refraction and the known distance between the rocket and the observer, you can clearly predict when that rocket will appear over the horizon.
So Dr. Bob and others reified their entire model. They reified their entire world into existence. Since they know the Earth is a sphere with a radius 3959, then they know light is doing such and such. But they can't demonstrate it. We show them till we're blue in the face. And then, now I'm showing them their own demonstration. This is from Mick West. And on the right is sugar water. On the left is clear water. And look, they say that light bends downward. Fine. Okay, light refracts downward to the denser gradient. But things ain't appearing higher, are they? Look at the light on the right and look at the light on the left. And you see the light on the right dropping down lower. And you obviously see the bottom of the city missing. Now look at the little gap between the buildings. So it seems to be getting worse the higher you get. And now for the top of the building next to the steeple thing, and it's the biggest gap yet. So it seems to get bigger the higher you get. And so they talk about these rockets and act like it proves a globe. That's ridiculous. So this is just an example of like a rocket hitting cirrus clouds like 5 miles up. So the first rocket represents like a mile away, and it's going to be way up there. Now the second rocket represents like 5 miles away. That's a cloud deck. So then the third rocket represents like 10 miles away, and look, it's already beneath the buildings. And then the fourth rocket's 15 miles away. It's way down, you know. And then the fifth rocket is like representing 20 miles away, and a house is going to block it. So anything pretty much past that, a ripple of water could block it. And that's before refraction. So now add a little refraction. I mean, the clouds pretty much we see, you can't see much further than 20 miles. Add a little refraction, and they say that the light bends downward toward the denser gradient, fine. But they have to say that it makes things appear higher because they're certain they live on a globe. But in reality, look at what it did. It made the bottom of the city disappear. It made things appear lower. So that's what we demonstrate over and over in all sorts of ways and point out their own demonstrations of it. And they just refuse to acknowledge reality. And what was Bob trying to prove? He says his hypothesis is if the Earth is curving, and if the radius is 3959, and if refraction is bends at a rate of 7/6 r, like what are you trying to prove? Earth curvature? You trying to prove the radius? You trying to prove refraction? Like they need it all to maintain their model. And any demonstrations that go against it in real life, they just stick their head in the sand, basically. So if they're reincarnated, they're all going to come back as ostriches.